But I want to empower parents that you are a part of your child's care team. You are. Nobody knows your kid better than you. Nobody knows Kennedy. Nobody knows Everett better than me.
Yeah.
And my voice matters in that room too. And I think there's this culture of intimidation with medical providers because doctors are always seen as so smart, and they are, and doctors are wonderful, but you are too. And your
Yeah.
voice matters in that room.
I saw it at the hand washing station at the entrance of the NICU. I see it in the playroom during medical play bingo. I see it near the fish tank in the surgery waiting room. There is a powerful unspoken language between two parents who have never met, but know in their deepest soul what the inside of a children's hospital feels like. It is joy and it is grief. It is love and it is fear. It is miracles and it is loss. This podcast exists to tell these stories. I'm Katie Taylor, a very proud child life specialist, and it is my honor to be your host of Inside the Children's Hospital. Hello, my friends. I'm so glad to be with you today. Today, I have the immense privilege of interviewing a mom and child life specialist. Her name is Caitlin. Her daughter Kennedy has ADNP syndrome, and a big long word after that both of us cannot say. But it's a rare disease and actually one of the main causes of autism. Her rare disease, her specific deletion, has less than 500 kids in the entire world that have received this diagnosis. We talk about how she got the diagnosis, regardless of the fact that her and her husband both don't have this type of deletion in their genes, so there's no family lineage. And we talk about how to specifically advocate in healthcare when your child is going to have repeat procedures and some things that you can do and ask for that you may not be aware of. I feel like I mumble and fumble through this entire episode because Caitlin is just so well spoken. I'm just literally in awe being able to have this conversation with her. And she's one of those incredible parents you know are going to make waves for her child in rare disease, just like all the other amazing parents who have come on this podcast. If you were at the beginning of your journey and you're just thinking about how optimistic and positive Caitlin is and all of the things that she's able to articulate and you don't feel like you're there, I want you to know that is okay. 3 years ago, she was in the exact same spot that you are. But because of parents like her and parents before her that have paved the way, so many new resources and tips and tricks are available for families. And yes, you do have to go out and find them yourselves. They're not always going to be handed to you on a silver platter. It is worth the search to find support for you and your child. All right, let's get started. I think it's always so fun when I get to have another child life specialist on the other side, just somebody who really
Yes.
understands why we created this space, why it's so important for parents to learn from one another, because the information that we use as child life specialists every day, sure, we have like our background, sure, and our clinical training, but we see what other parents do that works, and then we share that. And so I'm just so grateful to have you here. Would you mind introducing a little bit about who you are and where you come from, and just a little bit about you, Caitlin?
Yes, of course. My name is Caitlin Jackna. I live in the suburbs of Chicago with my husband and my two children. My daughter, Kennedy, is 3, and I have a 6 months old. So we are in the thick of all of that. His name is Everett, and he's wonderful as well.
So
My
sweet.
husband and I grew up together. We've known each other since high school. So coming back here and raising our kids has always been a dream of ours.
Yeah.
And I actually did not start my career as a child life specialist. I did basically as opposite as you can go. I worked at a hedge fund.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. That is
so
pretty. I was thinking, oh, accounting, finance, like what what's the opposite of child life?
yes, the exact opposite, though sometimes I feel like those people can be big old kids too, and you
Yeah,
gotta
true.
help them through stuff. So I actually went back to grad school and decided to do child life. And I miss it every day. I stay home with my kids now. My daughter's needs are just far too high. But I miss it every day. And I am so thankful that I took that leap and made that career change because it was scary because I have this knowledge base to pull on. not only for my daughter that has these medical complexities, but my son too.
Right.
And I've been able to help. I like to think I've been able to help lots of other families. I've made, I'm in that age where like it feels like my friends are just constantly having babies, and I've made like prep books for their kids on what to expect
Yeah.
when mom's going to the hospital and all of that. So I still feel like I get to use that muscle a little bit, but I do miss being on the other side of it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I find myself doing the same thing. Like if a friend has a surgery coming up or their child needs something, we just kind of have this really unique skill set that not a lot of other people do or know about. So we're like, "Oh, we can help with that." And it's just awesome
Yes,
when we can do that.
I totally agree.
Well, tell me a little bit about you mentioned Kennedy has some high medical needs, and you're able to stay at home with her now or need to stay at home with her now to help support her. Can you kind of walk us back through the beginning and finding out that something was going on with Kennedy?
Sure. So Kennedy is actually named after my maiden name. That's always my fun fact. I have
Yeah.
two sisters, so now we all have three different last names. And so I wanted to really preserve that name. So Kennedy is actually my maiden name. So
I
that's what
love
she's named
that.
after. Yes. So having this child development background to pull from, I started to notice early on, maybe like 2, 3 months, that she wasn't doing some of those milestones that I would expect a baby to be doing.
Yeah,
Like, she wasn't reaching for things, and she favored one side and would really resist if we tried to flip her to the other side. So I kinda started to notice some of those things were there, and when it's your first, I think that just makes it even harder. She
for
had
sure.
feeding issues. We didn't know that was weird. I've never consistently fed a baby a bottle at the hospital.
Yeah,
So, bottles were taking an hour and a half. And we were like, oh, this is terrible, but didn't know any different. Um, so kind of started to notice, but I almost feel like, and I hate to use this word, it's a little harsh, but I'm gonna. People like gaslight you a little bit. They're like,
yeah,
because I think they want to comfort you. So they say, she's totally fine. She's only 3 months old. She's totally fine, totally
yeah,
fine. And you can feel like a crazy person.
yeah.
So in the beginning, it felt like, am I one of those parents who's overreacting? And because I have this knowledge base to pull from, am I looking for every little thing?
Mm,
I wasn't. And I'm
yeah,
glad I kind of silenced that voice in my head. And I'm also thankful that we have a pediatrician who believes and listens to me. One of the things I say to families who ask about my story or share their experiences, doctors are like friends. If
yeah,
you don't get along with someone, why are you friends with them? So if a doctor isn't jiving with your family, isn't jiving with you or your kid, maybe they're not the provider for you. You can
yeah.
find somebody else. And so I'm very thankful our pediatrician has kind of been through this process with us. And so right around, I would say like 6 months, Kennedy started PT for what's called torticollis, which is the tightening of your neck muscles. That got resolved. We're like, she's going to be fine. She's going to start meeting her milestones now. When that didn't happen, it was like, what's happening? I noticed her head tilt came back. Okay, that's weird. So then I'm pushing, can we see an eye doctor? See the first eye doctor. Your kid's totally fine. Like, something in my gut is telling me this isn't, I'm not accepting that answer. The provider was great, but I walked out of that office. They're like, do you want to follow up? I was like, I'll call. Never called. I'm like, we're going to
Don't
try
call me,
somebody.
I'll call you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not accepting that answer. And again, there's that voice in your head that's like, are you overreacting? So I'm lucky I had a friend from college who is what's called an orthoptist. They specialize in like the shape and I think muscle of the eye. If she listens to this, she's gonna be like, that's wrong. But um she set me up with the eye doctor that she works with. And he's like, there's definitely something going on with her eyes, but I don't know what. And he's like, I want you to see a neurologist. And I was like, finally, somebody is saying there's something going on here.
Yeah,
Um, so he still couldn't figure out what's going on with her eyes. So we go see this neurologist, and she's like, I hear you. There's something going on here. We did a MRI with her and everything came back normal. So we're like, huh. So they're like, we
Yeah.
want to move to do genetic testing. Now, my husband and I have no rare diseases in our lineage that we knew of. So we're like, this is going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I remember I said to the neurologist, well, we don't even know if anything's going to come back. And she kind of gave me this look. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to mentally prepare that something's going to come back.
Yeah.
It was a gentle, and I don't know why that makes me emotional because it was a gentle, subtle, like, you can do this, but something's going to come back. And I love her. She retired and I'm still like depressed about it
Yeah.
because she was so wonderful. So we did the genetic testing, and like so many parents have sat on here and said they get that dreaded phone call. And she said, your daughter has ADMP syndrome. I'm like, what is that? I had never heard of it. There's about 500 cases worldwide, so it's very rare. Um, None of our medical providers have have heard of it, so we're kind of navigating this all on our own. But I've been able to learn so much, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm an information seeker. I am that child life specialist to my core. I
Yeah.
want to know what I can to help my kid, and we are lucky that parents who came before us with ADMP syndrome have built this incredible network that we've been able to join. I think I was like 2 days after diagnosis, I requested to join the Facebook group, and I've been able to learn so much from them. Somebody had put together a sheet of specialists to see after your kid's
Wow.
diagnosed. So I knew exactly kind of how to hit the ground running. And I think when your kid is diagnosed with something that's so out of your control, you need control somewhere. And that was able to give me that kind of control that I needed at that time to kind of feel like I was doing something to help her, even though you look back, hindsight's 2020. I was helping her all along. I had her in these therapies. I
You
was,
were.
fighting to get this diagnosis, but it doesn't feel that way in
Yeah.
the moment. And we are now almost 2 years out from diagnosis, and it feels like we have our foot in a little more, and
Yeah.
things still come up. I was talking to, another parent of a child with the same syndrome as my daughter, and she's like, "It feels like every doctor's appointment, something new comes up." And it's
Good.
so true. But this time I know it, and I'm ready for it, and I know we
Good.
can get through it, and that makes it feel a little bit easier. I also should backtrack a little. I don't think I really explained what ADMP syndrome is.
Yeah.
So, ADMP syndrome, there's a big long word for it, but we just call it ADMP syndrome. If you asked me to say it, I don't think I could.
I
I
was
think it's
actually practicing before and I was like, I'm not gonna see that.
yes, I think it's Belgian, the term, or
Oh, okay.
Dutch or
Yeah.
something. So we just call it ADMP syndrome. So we all have this ADMP gene in our brains, and it helps you do so many different things that we do. And it's actually wild how much missing a piece of that gene affects so much of your body. So my daughter has a deletion on that ADMP gene. They give you like this big long C2469 number that you're just lost over of where
Yeah.
the deletion is. And I have been able to connect with two parents through the Facebook group of kids who have the same deletion. And we are all here in the US, which is wonderful. We were actually diagnosed the same day as one of the families. Yes. And one shortly after us. So we're all our kids are all of similar ages. And we're all kind of in the thick of it together. And that
Yeah.
just makes me feel so much less alone for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining that. I want to go back to, I kind of heard you say it as you were saying it, is the ups and downs of saying in your head, like something's wrong, but they're saying nothing's wrong. So is it me? Is it me in my head? And then you get validated. The neurologist says, without saying it, I think something may come back. And you're like, wait, this is what I've been waiting for, but it's devastating that something
Yes.
may come back. Can you talk a little bit about how you coped as mom with like the roller coasters that come through as you're navigating even just getting the diagnosis?
Yes, one of my favorite things my husband and I have adopted since the day my daughter was diagnosed, we decided we are having a no judgment rule between each other, and we say whatever we feel. If it's dark, say it. If it's funny, say it. And we do not judge each other for that because who else knows exactly what this feels like but him and I? So we
Mm,
adopted that from day one. Um, Also, finding activities that help me kind of clear my head. I consider myself a really intelligent person, but the TV taste I have is lowbrow. I love to watch like a mind-numbing Bravo show after a
yes.
long day of therapy with my kid, and I'm
Oh,
proud of that. So
heck
I
yes.
I love to do that as well. Um, and some days are easier than others. Another thing my husband and I did almost immediately was start couples therapy. The statistics for families of kids with special needs and what it does to a relationship, they're not
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's a huge stressor and I totally understand why. Um Everybody copes differently. Like even my
Yeah.
husband and I coped with the initial diagnosis so differently. He needed time to process. He had a
Yeah.
fantastic boss who gave him that a week off to just be with our family and kind of process it all. I needed to know everything I could,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he wasn't ready to do that. And
Yeah.
neither one is more right than the other.
Mm,
But we started couples therapy as like a place to process those feelings together and talk about the difficult times we have. There's some days where I feel like my daughter's so dysregulated that we're dysregulated the rest
right.
of the day because it's so overstimulating and, working together on how to cope with that with somebody else has been very, very helpful. So I highly recommend that for any families going through something difficult. And we're super open about it because if we're not, then that stigma continues.
Yeah. One of the things I'm loving that you're saying is the no judgment to you and your husband, and that giving that grace to him actually probably allows you to give yourself that grace too when dark things pop up and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that, or I shouldn't be watching this TV show. If you're practicing that outward, it probably ends up coming internal as well.
Yes, I think that's a good point. I've never thought about it that way, but for sure.
Well, I just hope that you're giving yourself all the grace. I think that's what I'm like willing to you right now is that you
Thank
allow
you.
yourself to fly through whichever direction up or down you're going to.
Thank
I
you.
want to get a little bit into the way that you advocate for Kennedy in the healthcare setting because you bring such a unique lens of having work experience advocating for others. And there's one specific procedure you mentioned when you wrote to me about the VCUG and how you've advocated for her to be able to have a pre medication. I want to back up and let you talk about what all of those big words mean and how parents
Yes.
can even get curious about like what their child has to go through and why advocating for something like a pre-medication is so important.
Yeah. This is where I am so thankful to have the background that I do have because it was never offered to us. When we saw the urologist, he said, I need to do this VCUG. And it was just period.
Yeah.
If I didn't know what that was, I would have just gone into that thing and hoped that I could help her cope.
Yeah.
So one big piece of advice that I always share with families when they ask me about this topic is look on the website and email child life at the hospital you're going to. See what they are able to offer to you. I think a lot of families don't meet child life all the time, but it's available if you need it at places.
Yeah.
Please don't spam them with constant things. I have to give
Yeah.
that precursor. But if your kid is having a procedure or something at the children's hospital, it's worth asking. And that's kind of how I was able to get this set for my daughter is that we had been sent to the local hospital in our town.
Yeah. I was just
There's
going to say
child
that.
life, but there's no Versed.
Yeah.
So I emailed the child life specialist and said, What? What sedatives have you been able to advocate for kids for? because I know my daughter is going to need this every 6 to 12 months. And I think that's a big, important thing for families
Um,
who don't have the background I have to keep in mind. If your kid's having repeat procedures, repeat exams, anything like that, they remember. Even if they're little, they remember. There's that book, The Body Keeps the Score. It
right.
remembers.
Yeah.
And so, how can we make this as easy as possible so that when you have to go do it again, they're able to cope with it again and again and again? So, I actually heard back from the child life specialist, and she's like, "We don't do any sedatives here, but downtown in the city, we do." I'm like, "Done. I'll drive downtown. I don't care if I have to drive 2 hours. I just want
Yeah.
her to have this sedative." And so downtown at the hospital where I take her, they do have a Versed program with the child life specialist, which I love.
Amazing.
Um, I want to empower parents that you are a part of your child's care team. You are. Nobody knows your kid better than you. Nobody knows Kennedy. Nobody knows Everett better than me.
Yeah.
And my voice matters in that room too. And I think there's this culture of intimidation with medical providers because doctors are always seen as so smart, and they are, and doctors are wonderful, but you are too. And your
Yeah.
voice matters in that room. And I am so thankful that I was able to learn that in the hospital environment. So I had no issue
Yeah.
jumping in and being like, this doesn't work for us, or we're only doing this if we do this.
Yeah.
And so it can be hard to find that confidence in yourself if it's not a muscle you're flexing often, but your voice matters too. Any parent out there listening to this, you are able to say no.
Yeah.
You're able to ask for things. And maybe the answer is no at that point, but what else could be done? And it kind of opens that discussion.
It does, and you're flexing the muscle. Like, asking small questions, I think, is a great way if you're not used to advocating in healthcare. Just try something. Say, "Could we be the first appointment of the day?" You know? Or,
Yes.
Could we try to get these doctors back to back?" They're probably gonna say, "Sure," or if, "Let me see if I can find out," and that's a little bit lower stakes than saying, "I want my child to have this medication that I don't even know how to pronounce, but I heard about it online." Like,
Yes.
that doesn't always go over well, but it opens up a conversation, and I love what you're saying about sometimes the most well-meaning pediatricians will write to a local hospital or X-ray or MRI suite, and that's great because it's convenient, and a lot of times that's just what they do, but you can ask
Yeah.
for a pediatric specific children's hospital or something, and then it's just gonna unlock so many more resources like Child Life, like you said.
Yes, I have said that exact advice to other ADNP families in our group is do it at your local children's hospital. Now, this is also hoping your insurance is taken
Yeah,
there. And I know
right,
that's so much more
for
complex
sure.
than just do that. But if you can, I have told so many families that, and I'm like, request child life,
Yep.
request it. See if you can get some support.
Yeah, and you know what? Even if you can't go to that children's hospital, you can likely call Child Life, email Child Life, and say, "Hey, can I spend 10 minutes on the phone with someone and learn how they do things? And then what can you bring from what they told you back to where the insurance does cover?" It's just, I think the more you know, the more empowered you feel, the better your child will do. And it can be really scary to think about what's coming next, but it's only going to equip you to know how to support your child best. And yeah.
I totally agree.
Um, has it been, if you're comfortable talking about this, Caitlin, um, you mentioned that both you and your husband don't have a predisposition to have this genetic deletion, and that your daughter just was it a spontaneous?
Yeah, so she's what's called, for anyone who doesn't know, it's called a de novo case, which is Latin for of new. So, meaning that the way her genes were kind of copied over when she was forming, that deletion just happened. It wasn't a gene that my husband or I passed on to her.
Okay. And when you decided to have another child, what was that discussion like, and how did you navigate what that would be like? Because I know there's so many families that maybe their firstborn has a disease or a diagnosis, and they think, I wanted more than one child, but number one, I'm exhausted. Number two, my child
Yes.
requires so much of me. And number three, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And if it does, how do we handle it?
Yes, I've been asked that by even families who don't have, a genetic condition in their family. They're just curious.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to talk about it.
Thank
So
you.
it was a hard decision. We met with a genetic counselor at our local hospital where I'd be delivering before we decided to have my son. And she kind of walked us through what that would look like. And she took a history on my husband, a history on me. We both did genetic testing, and she gave us like a 1 in a trillion chance it would happen again. That sounds huge, but we've hit the genetic lottery once.
I
So
was about to
does that
say.
really bring comfort? I don't know. So we ended up leaning on our ADNP network for a lot of information, which um, I kind of mentioned Facebook groups, but if you are the parent of a kid with a rare disease, look if there's groups. I
Yeah,
was recently talking to a mom in the waiting room at the rehab hospital where my daughter does her therapies. And she's like, I'd never heard of this, joined one and has learned so much. So
amazing.
look, they're out there. It stinks that the burden's on the parents to
It
find
does.
these groups.
Yeah.
But look for them. So nobody in our group came forward and said that there are no cases of repeat de novo. Now, there's cases of mom or dad has the ADMP gene and then multiple kids do.
Mhm.
But as far as I know, there's no repeat de novo cases, which also brought us a lot of comfort.
Sure.
Um, in that group, it's very closed off, only caregivers of kids with this syndrome, so it's a safe place to ask those kinds of questions, which I greatly
Great.
appreciate,
Yeah.
where people were like, "Yeah, we have 3 kids, and" or, "Here's how our brain was working when we were going through that process."
Mhm.
And so when I did get pregnant with my son, they did offer me to do IVF too.
Right.
I don't think I could've all those IVF warriors out there, I don't think I could have had a special needs child and done that
Yeah.
on top of it. So my husband and I just kind of accepted, you know what? We're accepting that we might have another kid with ADMP syndrome if we choose to have another child. That's
Mm.
that's something that we're accepting. I think you're accepting that most of the time when you're choosing
Right.
to have a kid is you don't know what they're going to be
There's
like.
no guarantees no matter which way we do it.
Yes. So when I did get pregnant with my son, they offered me they offered me 2 things, a placenta biopsy. There's a medical term for it that I still have, like, horrible postpartum brain, so I cannot remember it. Um, and or amniocentesis. Now, the placenta biopsy, they do, I think, between 9 and 12 weeks, and so you don't have much time once you find out you're pregnant to decide what to do with that. So I hemmed and hawed. I asked the Facebook group again,
Right.
and lots of people saying, I did it. It gave me peace of mind. Lots of people saying, I did it. It hurt and it made me anxious. Then I come to find out you cannot carry anything over, I think it's like 15 or 20 pounds for 2 weeks. Now, at the time, my daughter with hypotonia, which is low muscle tone, wasn't walking and she weighed 22 pounds. I'm
Yeah.
a stay-at-home mom. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to do? I don't have the kind of help to be over here all day, every day lifting her because she
Right.
can't get anywhere without me lifting her at the time. Now she's walking, which is incredible. Um, so it was a hard decision because you feel like, if I decline this, am I negligent?
Right.
If I do this, am I risking something? Because there is a risk of miscarriage. So I decided not to. And I
Yeah.
remember the genetic counselor saying to me after I declined it, saying, "Oh, good. The doctor said it's such low risk that it's not worth the risk." And I remember being so confused. Like, why wasn't that presented to me beforehand? Like an honest pro con
Right.
conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but everybody makes the decision that feels best for them. If you need
Right.
to know that information, then do it. That's great.
Yeah.
if that information is gonna make you more anxious, then, you can decline it.
Right.
And my son is already so different than my daughter. He was only weeks old, and my husband and I are like, he's typically developing.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
doesn't have, ADNP syndrome. And in a way, it's been extremely healing to
Yeah.
watch like bottles don't take an hour and a half. And that's wonderful. But it's also sad because you see how much my daughter struggled now that you kind of parent a different way.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, a harder pill to swallow, but it's also so fun to watch them interact and
Yeah.
watch my daughter. One thing about ADMP is it's the leading one of the leading genetic causes of autism.
Okay.
But I like to say their flavor of autism is a little different because we know it's a spectrum and they're super social.
Oh,
My daughter could laugh and play and interact with anyone all day, every day. And so now she's got like a little play partner to do that because I think
mm.
she is bored of me. So she now has somebody
No
else to
way.
do that
Most
with.
fun mom ever. You are.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you.
Thank you for, like, explaining the duality of, like, the joy and the grief that just lives all around at all times, and
Yes.
really, like, you access both at the same time, and it can be, for me, you're amazing to watch, you're incredibly strong, and I know
Thank
that
you.
you don't need to hear that, but, um, I'm so grateful that there's someone like you who can articulate these dual feelings and make them okay, and that it's okay to be sad that your son is not that your son is typically developing, but it was different than it was with your daughter, and that can be sad to feel.
Yes, my best friend said a quote to me once that has stuck with me is like, both things can exist. Two things can exist. You can
Yeah.
have these feelings of utter relief and happiness he's typically developing, and it can be right alongside that grief. And it is.
You were getting to it a little bit, but we're gonna go to my last favorite question, and I can already, like, anticipate what you'll say, but I can't wait to hear. Tell me about your favorite part of being Kennedy's mom.
Oh, I love this question. She is by far the silliest person I have ever met in my life. And sometimes she laughs when she shouldn't. Like we went to there's an amazing theater by us that has a special needs showing. So we went to go see Moana 2. Spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know, she almost dies at one point. And my daughter hysterically laughing in the theater. My husband and I were mortified, and now we laugh about it. She is the goofiest, most loving, fun kid, and just the joy that she has for life is infectious. I
Oh.
take her places, and my mom always says, "Kennedy just makes people happy." I'm constantly stopped. People are constantly coming up to us. Um, and it truly is infectious. Her happiness, infectious.
Oh my goodness, what a privilege to be able to be her mom, this beautiful girl.
It really, really is.
You mentioned Facebook groups being essential for helping you. You mentioned the no judgment between you and your husband, which I think is such a really good practice. You mentioned being able to find your own doctor. And if you're not driving like you would with a friend, it's okay to find another person to do that. And you exampled that perfectly when you were talking about the optometrist, that it just wasn't the right fit. So you went to find someone else. Any other resources or things that mentioned rare disease? Is there a specific organization that really helped you?
Yeah, that's a great question. My daughter's specific syndrome has two organizations. One supports research based things. I hate to say the good thing about my daughter's syndrome, but is that because of this tie to autism, it's super enticing to researchers. So we have this
Okay.
research component. And then we also have this wonderful organization that's fairly new, started by a group of these empowered ADMP parents to support us. So we got a wonderful wagon through them so
Wow.
that it can hold my daughter up to 100 pounds because her muscles get tired. So just providing these resources. The NORD, the National Organization of Rare Diseases, on their website, if you search specific diseases or syndromes, it will list like associated organizations with that. So that's a really good place for people to start. I also love following like other parents' journeys on social media.
Yeah.
So if your kid has autism, type parent of autism into
Right.
TikTok, into
Yeah.
Instagram, and find somebody who, um, parents the way that you do or has good tips that you like. Now, the internet can be scary and there's a lot out there. So you have to really filter, pick and choose. But I remember when my daughter was first diagnosed, I typed ADNP into TikTok and a mom popped up. And I've since
Wow.
connected with her through the Facebook group and
Yeah.
she was sharing a day in her son's life. I'm like, "Okay, I'm not alone. Somebody
Yeah.
else is out there. My daughter isn't this rare thing that nobody knows what to do, to support her." And so like I said, I hate that the onus is on the parents to seek
Yeah.
these resources out, but that's just unfortunately kind of, where we're at. So get curious, search
Yeah.
on the internet, search on social media, and I think that's been the most helpful thing for me. I actually just started my own Instagram.
Good. I was hoping you
Um,
would mention that.
it's called Different Together Co. And I like that because everyone is different, but
Mhm.
let's be different together. There is so much power in togetherness. I am amazed every day by the kids in our neighborhood whose moms I've become very close with, the way they play with my daughter.
Yeah.
She's different than them, but they don't know any different. And
Yeah.
so this togetherness we've created, I think, is going to change the way that people view inclusion and disability. And so I'm going to be sharing different ways to help families kind of. I've noticed like we were talking about this gap between like what you can do to support your kid with a disability or a rare disease or autism um, in these settings where child life isn't present. So I'm
Right.
hoping to bridge that gap, but also continue this conversation of inclusion and what tips and tricks and tools we can do. And I'm just very excited. Just
Yeah.
started. So we're in its infancy, but I'm excited of what this is going to evolve to.
Well, it's such a need and it's going to resonate with so many parents and professionals like myself. Like, I can't wait to see what you come up with. And it's just
Thank
the
you.
beginning. Yes.
Thank you. I feel that way as well. I'm excited to see what this becomes.
Mm. I've noticed such this beautiful optimism and realness about you. Is this something that you have always had within you, or has it developed since becoming Kennedy's mom?
I think I've kind of always been this person.
Mm.
Um, I have always just had like a brightness about me, I would say, but I'm also a realist.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about hard things,
Yeah.
but we can talk about those hard things and be positive in how we can work together through those hard things.
You're a child life specialist through and through.
I know. I
Right.
truly feel like it was I hate to use this cheesy line, but I truly feel like it was my calling, and I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that I have this skill set for my daughter and to help other people.
Well, you are wonderful. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank
Is there
you.
anything else that you were hoping that I asked you about or that you wanted to mention that I didn't?
I don't think so. If you're a parent out there looking for help, questions, anything, message me at on my Instagram is different together co and I am happy to answer whatever I can. And if I can't, I will tell you that honestly.
Perfect. We will send you this podcast episode because we probably covered it. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For those of you who are joining us today, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am a child life specialist. And the suggestions and tips and resources that I talk about with parents on this podcast may be great for you and they may not be right for you. So, the most important person you can talk to about getting support is your care team, your doctor who knows your story and your child's story. So, regardless of maybe what I mention or what other families mention here, we're not licensed therapists, we're not doctors. We're having a conversation about what the parenting journey has been like. So, please keep that in mind as you listen today.